Hey guys, welcome to Admit 3, where we discuss all things movies, media, and television. I'm Rob.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Kurt.
Thank you for joining us.
Perfect. Slam dunk. Welcome back to Admit 3. Today we're discussing John Wick Chapter 4, which hit theaters Friday, March 24th, 2023. This chapter follows John Wick as he seeks revenge on the High Table for all they put him through. Meanwhile, the Marquis Vincent de Gramont, a senior member of the High Table, has been given unlimited resources to find and kill John Wick. This chain of events pits John against the best assassins in the world, some of who are old friends of his, in what is his biggest chapter of the Wick franchise so far. We are once again joined by our special guest, Sherry, who has very recently fell in love with the John Wick series. Cher, what did you think of Chapter 4?
Can I rate it yet or no?
No, save
We
it for
saved
the
it for
end.
the end!
Going for the rating off.
Not that it's a surprise. It'll be a surprise for
not-
these people, but it's
not
not a
a
surprise
surprise.
for us because we've
What
been
did I
shouting
think of
it from the rooftop.
Not
I
good.
have. I've told everybody who will even remotely
She's
listen
giving
to
it
me.
a 5.
I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5.
Oh, God.
It's
We already
okay.
knew.
I'll explain why all throughout the podcast. But I had no interest in watching any of these movies at all until you guys were going to go see this one. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I will. And loved it. Loved all of them. Even the goofy stuff. Loved it all.
The goofy stuff,
Makes it.
it's integral to
I
the
agree.
franchise.
Like when he falls down.
Oh, my
Sid
God.
just keeps rolling
Um,
and rolling.
For sure. I think that specific scene is one of the funnier moments
Stand out.
of the franchise. And it's one of the only times that we've gone to a movie this year where everybody in the crowd was laughing. There was no like hit or miss for anybody. It was just unanimously hilarious.
Yeah.
I love that. I am not going to give my score right now, but I did also really
We already know your score.
enjoyed this movie. You don't know my score.
4.5 out of 5.
I really enjoyed this movie. It's like you said, it's the biggest chapter so far. You can really feel the scope. It's like they're all, really all over the globe kind of, but this one you really feel the locations. I know they shot on location in a lot of these places. You really feel it. Everything is lit so well. Every room he walks into looks like a frame of art. It's just so cool and so fully realized. And despite it being nearly 3 hours long, I wouldn't change a thing about it probably.
No, I didn't get bored at all.
What did you think, Laura?
Well, I didn't hate it. It wasn't the best movie I've ever seen. I feel like it could have been shorter. I like the action scenes. They were cool.
The whole thing was an action
I
scene.
know, but I'm saying like it
What
could
would
have...
you have cut out?
I don't know if I would cut out anything, but maybe make some of the fighting scenes a little shorter, because it was literally like the same fight throughout the whole thing. So they could just like condense each to like half of what it was. Each scene. It would have been equally as good, I think.
Okay, that's an opinion.
I remember turning to Robert as soon as, I'm assuming it's Killa Harkin, the one with the gold teeth.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw him, I looked over at Robert. I was like, he looks like Peter Pettigrew. Like that, he just reminded me of like a fat rat. I don't know.
Fat rat.
And I feel like that, like as he was chasing after them in that thing, and like he like comes through the rain.
Yeah.
I felt like
that
that
little
thing was really cool.
waterfall
Yeah.
nightclub shit. Yeah, that's so
How
cool.
it kind of got slow mo, and you could just see him like walking like a boss. Like, you're over, bruh. That was cool.
What did you think of the movie, Rob?
I thoroughly enjoyed it as well. I think one of the strongest points, at least to me, in the movie was the settings and the backdrops. I think you kind of touched upon that, but like in the beginning, I think it was supposed to be in Japan, I believe it was, or maybe that was after he was in the desert in I'm not sure which desert.
Yeah,
it was.
I think it starts very briefly in New York, and then we know he's going to go after the guy from the high table, and then
Yeah.
I believe it's directly after that in the desert.
So
So he's
the-
chasing the guys on the horse and having a shootout.
Yeah, the setting in the desert, I thought it was like very beautiful. It was, awesome to watch. And then they went over to Japan. I'm not sure if it was actually shot in Japan, but there's like a scene where John Wick is standing talking to the concierge. Is that how you say it?
Akira?
Yeah, the one who with the father who meets an unfortunate end. And they're talking, and she's basically blaming John for like everything that's about to happen, and
Yeah.
saying it's all his fault. And they're like, there's a distance between them. There's like a divide between them of a couple feet, and there's a sakura tree in the background, and like the sakura blossoms are like rolling in the wind. It was just such a beautiful
Yeah,
shot. It
yeah.
was very very cool.
Do you know that was her first movie? This was
I did
her
not.
first movie.
Wasn't her first?
It was. Just looked it up right before we started recording.
That's
Wow.
cool.
She's like a, I don't want to say pop star, but she's a musician. Like she's an yeah. That's,
Yeah, I had no idea.
I did not know either.
She was really good in this
they
movie.
handpicked her. Keanu Reeves, and I can't remember who else it was. I don't know if it was a producer or what, but saw a couple of her music videos. And we're like, yeah,
Wow,
I want her
that's
to
really
be
cool.
involved. Yeah, she said she pulled her back out at some point during training.
Well, I can imagine they all pulled blood.
She really did some boss moves there,
She
so
did.
I believe.
But she said Keanu made sure that she had everything she needed and was taken care of, which
Yeah.
nobody's ever heard of
Yeah,
it.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
obviously we knew that. He's like probably the
An
best,
angel.
Yeah, best celebrity you could ever meet. I've never met him, but I've heard great things. He'll give you a seat on the subway,
I know, I have seen that. Yeah,
and he takes fucking public transportation. Like, what a king! He's got like so much money, and he doesn't have like drivers or anything. He's just taking the subway.
well, when you see how much fucking taxis cost in New York.
I was gonna say before we actually watched this movie, I saw a behind the scenes where they were at the Continental in Japan. And do you remember the scene with the escalator where one of the guys gets like thrown down the escalator and like flips all the way down? It's a short scene, but in the behind the scenes, like you see, it's like a real dude that they just throw
Yeah.
down the escalator, and he's getting like all like
Stuntman?
yeah. And I'm like, props to the stuntman, because my back would have just shattered into dust. I don't
I
care
can't
what I'm
even
wearing.
get up in the
but
morning.
I was gonna say
Just out of my
his
bed.
back probably did shatter.
they just left him there.
He's got insurance.
These movies so heavily rely on stuntmen, and it's such like a showcase for stunts. Like this one and all of the chapters before. I actually believe I read when we were going back through the series that Chad Stahelski, I think is the director's name. He was a stuntman.
Yeah.
And I believe he was Keanu Reeves' stunt double actually, and now he's
A great director.
He's a great director. This is already becoming one of the biggest action franchises of all time. So it's very cool that you put people with the knowledge of how these stunts and this choreography and passion that goes into it, you give them, with that knowledge, a chance to direct big movies like this. And you just notice a difference between this kind of action and the rest of like modern
Yeah.
Hollywood action.
Well, it's a dance. It's definitely
It's
like
absolutely
it's so creative. It's very yeah, I think you're right that like him being a stunt person lends well to how we as a viewer can see it.
yeah. And it's amazing that it never feels stale at all. In each movie, they up the ante.
Yeah.
And throughout a lot of this movie, I would say the first 2 hours of, well, not quite 2 hours, but an hour and a half, hour 45 of this movie, I I really liked it. I thought the action was great, but I was like, okay, so the difference between this movie and the other movies is that like the action is pretty much the same. It's just the set pieces are bigger and nicer in this movie. But I was feeling like I wish that it would have been like the other movies and up the ante on the action a little bit, and show us things that we haven't necessarily seen before. But then we get to that final hour or so. It starts with the car scene we were talking about before.
Yeah,
where
we're just going in a circle and just shooting the people in the circle.
And then that
So good.
goes into the scene where he's walking through the building and you see the whole
The
thing
aerial.
from overhead, the aerial shot.
Fantastic.
And
shot.
people are getting blasted with, what was it, the dragon scale gun or whatever it was.
Dragon's breath, yeah.
Dragon's breath. It was such a fucking cool scene. It was one of my favorite action scenes I've ever seen, probably.
Can we go back to the car scene?
Yeah.
And just
In the roundabout? Which car
where
scene?
is it? Because I'm never fucking going there. One and two.
I think that was in Paris, right?
How many times can you get hit by a car and just get back up and walk? He also
John
fell.
Wick's been doing it every fucking
I
movie.
was
Yeah,
gonna say
he
he
gets hit by a lot of
also
cars.
fell from like a 3-story building
I
onto
laughed
a
very
car,
hard at that part.
and then
Yeah.
just got up and walked away.
Yeah.
Like what?
So that, not that we've gotten to the end yet, but that was my thing. I was like, there's no way that these 3 shots took out John Wick. I'm sorry, this man
Yeah.
has been through some shit. There is no way.
It's made of titanium.
Yeah,
There's no way that was the thing that like brought him out.
do like how they added that into their like their wardrobe, like the Kevlar.
Oh yeah.
Am I pronouncing that right? Kevlar.
Yeah.
Yeah. The like bodysuit or whatever. Just
The armor,
regular suit.
like into
yeah.
the suit. Yeah.
Well, that's
Totally.
my only. That's my only explanation with how he survived some of the things that he survived is having an armored suit, and then in the final scene where he takes these shots, he's not wearing armor.
But he
And
didn't have that suit like for the entire time he's been an assassin either.
Every
I'm
movie
also-
he has like you kind of see that in chapter 2 that like all these suits that they're making are designed to like be able to take damage.
Sure, but if I'm falling out of a fucking building and I'm hitting every G railing on
He
the
had
way
his
down,
best suit so far.
Do we
Batman
think
can do it. John Wick can do
that
it.
before the final scene that him and
Kane.
what's his name? Kane, like,
came to an agreement.
yeah, like, we're gonna fake this person out.
I don't think they talked about it, but I think they
Understood.
understood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because one, he's blind. How does he know where you're shooting?
Oh no,
That-
yeah, no, that's not it.
That's one thing. He shoots his arm first, so I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's like, and then he shoots him in the side, and I'm wondering if like it was purposeful. Like he got shots in, but they were in like places where
100% because
he wouldn't
these are
die.
the 2 best assassins out there, and they couldn't do a kill shot the first time.
That's
Definitely
that's
not.
what I'm saying.
But in that church scene, Kane says something like, essentially, like, you don't have anything left, but I still have my daughter.
Right, yeah.
And he says, like, don't be so sure, like, whatever. But I think, like, that was where they came to that understanding that
Yeah,
John doesn't have anything left. The only peace he can find is in death.
Mm-hmm.
And he still has his daughter to
right.
save. Not even live for, because the threat was on her life as well. Not just like, we're going to kill you can't see her anymore. It was like, we're going to kill your daughter as well.
Right.
I definitely think John was resigned to die, but he wanted to, like, was it the second movie or the third movie where that chick slashes her wrist and she's like, I'm going to go out, but I'm going to go out my own way?
The second movie.
Yeah.
I think John was kind of the same thing. He was ready to go, but he didn't want to be under, like, the influence of the table while he
Yeah.
did it. He wanted to be a free man. And
But he wanted to be a good man too. Because
Yeah.
I think that what that guy said to him, that was that same guy, right, in the second movie that was like, "What do you want to die as?" Like a couple people have said a different version of that to him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Several times.
It was Winston. who
Yeah,
said that
yeah,
in the
he-
second movie. Yeah.
Like, do you want to die as the person she knew, or do
Yeah.
you want to die as the assassin John Wick? And I
Yeah.
think that it was nice that he got to kind of make that decision.
Yeah.
He died a good man doing something for somebody else.
Yeah.
So think
Spoiler alert.
it's cool that he basically like took the hit knowing that he was probably gonna die, but he knew that if he let Kane get the shot in and then like he fall to the ground, his debt
The
was
ego.
over.
But he also knew that that guy's
Yeah.
ego was going to take over, and he's
Yeah,
like, no, I'm going to be
But I'm
the
saying
one.
he
Yeah.
knew that Kane's daughter would be safe, and
Yeah.
he was no longer gonna be. He was also gonna be free, so Kane got his happy ending, and so
Speaking
Well
of that part, I want to jump in because
Post-credit scene?
no,
Okay.
I'm jumping in right where Laura was talking
Oh, okay.
about. There was never like anything in the rules that they said where, because they said a duel to the death, and John wasn't dead yet, and so when the Marquis picks up the gun and starts walking towards John, like I just don't understand how that falls within the rules, like John shooting him, and then because he wasn't supposed to be in the duel.
But he can take over at any time.
He
Yeah.
was able because what
He-
they
he
call
nominated
it. He
this-
nominated Kane.
But also
to
the guy
take his
tells you
place.
when to fire. So it wasn't like it was like a regular duel. It was like a sneak attack from John. From every other shot between
Yeah,
Kane
no,
and John.
it was because Kane had already taken his second shot and John did not, so he was able to shoot at any time. So they were gonna go up to the last 10 feet. It started
Yeah,
at 30
5 to
paces,
10,
then it went to 10, whatever. So they were gonna stand back up at that. So basically,
Yeah.
what's his fucking name?
The-
The villain.
This guy?
Vincent de Gramont.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He thought he was just gonna have it in the back because
And
John Wick
roll.
was already down, but he didn't take a shot. So
Yeah,
John was able
it's-
to fire at any.
That seemed like a gray area in the rules to me a little bit. And then the Harbinger or whatever that guy was,
Yeah.
he was just kind of like, yeah, whatever, you guys are both good to go.
But I think that was also, I think that he wanted that all along. He didn't like the little schmuck, and he was
I
like,
don't think anybody
I'm out of
did.
here.
Before I do really want to talk about Bill Skarsgård in this movie, but while he mentioned the Harbinger, so real quick, I want to give a shout out to Kingsley Brown, who is an icon,
A legend, a
a
moment.
legend. He's also the voice. I'm sure you knew. I don't know if they knew the voice of Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob.
What? That's awesome.
I had no idea.
But yeah, I love Bill Skarsgård.
I hate his French accent.
His French accent is very funny in this movie for sure.
Really?
It's very
But
bad.
I think it's very funny. But I think this entire franchise has like intentionally.
Yeah, I
like,
thought that was the
accents.
point, like the
Exactly, yeah.
the overblown villain. With the,
I think it's bad in a way that it was intended to be.
I still don't think it was that bad.
It wasn't good.
But I thought he was a good villain. He's good
Oh,
at playing
yeah.
this guy who he has so much power, but he is also a
Fragile
chicken
ego.
shit. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
ego
yeah,
driven,
yeah.
but he's a chicken shit. He doesn't want to get his own hands dirty because he knows he can't
I think it's
compete with
just
these people.
his look as well. Like his.
Blonde.
No,
Blonde.
no, not blonde. Just like his.
Slicked hair.
Everything about him
Pushed
just
back.
like screams villain. I don't know.
Yeah.
He
Just
was-
maybe it's his eyes.
All
Those
of it.
Pennywise eyes.
It's all of it.
His
But he
super
absorbs the characters he plays for sure. Like, yeah,
I thought he did very good in this
yeah,
role.
100%.
Well, acting does run in the family. You know,
Sure.
you got Kellen.
So
We
we
could
talked,
name them all.
I was gonna
just name Kellen.
we talked a little bit about Kane, who was one of the more, iconic characters that was introduced in this movie.
Yeah.
Can we also talk about the person who played Nobody, which I don't know if we ever
Love him,
actually got.
Mary
into.
Anderson.
Yeah.
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 No, I mean
just-
in the movie, I don't know if they
Oh,
ever get
no,
into
they
that.
never-
he's credited as Stalker and Nobody.
Nobody. Yeah, I thought.
He.
No, sorry, not Stalker. Tracker.
Tracker. I was like,
Sorry.
there's
I've had a little bit too much.
Laura and I know
Oh my God, Winona.
the iconic Shamir Anderson
Ryder.
from Winona Earp,
Winona
where
Earp.
he plays.
I don't know who plays, but
He's the
great.
government agent that works
And
alongside them.
When they killed him off,
I know, but they killed him because he had such a great
Yeah, he-
future
Now we
in,
know
in
that
film.
he dies, and they know too.
I feel like that was actually the end. Me and Sherry stopped watching.
I stopped watching after they killed him off. I was like, "Fuck this!"
He
no
was
way. That
he
my
was
boo.
so good in the show.
So
They had
good in that
such
role.
good
So
chemistry
good.
together on set, and then when he was gone, it's kind of like, well,
I was depressed.
that ruined it for me.
He's fantastic here. He's
Yeah,
one
he
of
was
the
very
best
talented.
side characters we've had so far. I think.
Yeah.
This is the only one you care about, really. I think. Like,
I kind of cared about. I'll get to that in a second. But he's great in this, and he serves as the audience a little bit.
Yeah.
In the final scene where he's like, "Oh shit, that was good."
yeah. After he kills him.
Yeah, that was great, and I love the bond he has with his dog. The way
Oh,
it kind of
so
mirrors the
circular.
way-
Yeah.
It's so circular. And I was talking with you, and I think Rob about the role that dogs play in this franchise and how fascinating it is to me. And I was thinking about the human connection and how when you're in this world, you don't have that human connection because you either put them in danger or you put yourself in danger. So the only people you can, or the only things you can really rely on for companionship are animals. And that's why people in this world care so much about their dog.
When that guy pointed the gun at the dog, I'm like, these motherfuckers. kill this dog. I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah.
They
Well,
killed the
John
dog in
Wick
the
wasn't
first
gonna let
one.
it happen. But the dog was fantastic in this movie. The scene where the dog like walks out of the shadows and you just hear it like growling beside this
Yeah,
guy.
that was cool.
That
That
was-
dog has better comedic timing than a lot of actors out there.
I also thought it was funny when
It peed on his head.
nobody went to go, like, he aimed his gun at John, like he was
Yeah.
about to shoot him, and the dog just goes, like,
Yeah.
he just saved
Yeah.
my life. You're not gonna kill him, are you? It's pretty funny.
But circling back to what you said about caring for that side character, I think this movie does such a great job of making you care about every side character it introduces. I cared about Koji, even though like he hasn't been in it. I cared about what happens with his daughter. I cared about Kane and what's going on with him. I cared about the tracker. I cared about all of these people so much, and
Did
that's
you
something that's
care
missing.
about kill a heart? Because that's true too.
I think that's something that's missing in the other
You
John
didn't
Wick
answer.
movies.
What's the answer?
No, I didn't care about Killa Harkin, but I loved those scenes. I thought it was very funny, and Scott Adkins is. I know he's a huge action star. I haven't really seen him in anything, but I thought he was very good here, being menacing and funny at the same time in his fat suit. But that's one thing I thought was missing in the other movies was it introduces all these side characters,
But you don't
but
care
you
about
don't
them.
care what happens to them at all, really. And this one, you felt so invested in it, and I think that's one reason the longer runtime works, because they could really flesh out those
I think
characters a little bit
I
more.
don't think of it that way. I like how in the first few movies you don't get enough about the side characters to care about them because it wasn't the final act. And I feel like in the final act it was more about people sacrificing things for other people, for loyalty, for friendship. And then we see that, you know, like this is John Wick's last chapter and you know,
Potentially.
well, you know what I mean? Like he at the end of the movie,
Potentially.
they made a lot of money, Laura. They're gonna try to find
Yeah.
a way to bring
They've
it
already
back.
said they want to
They
come
are,
back.
yeah.
Keanu has already said that he will do as many as they want to do, and if the fans want to keep watching it, he'll keep doing them. We'll see what happens.
But they also did say it doesn't have to be necessarily past this timeline. You could
Yeah.
like go to different
Prequels?
times. Yes.
Yes. They already have spin-offs and
Can
just
only
other stuff.
But I think like I didn't want to care about the characters in the first. Like I was just like, cool, this is action, this is fun. But by the time we get to now, we've seen John, we care about John, and then we see like what he's, you know, the people he's interacting with, and you know, people owe each other things, and I like that.
I think I spoke very briefly with Kurt about this, and I don't think you or Laura will really understand this as much because I don't think you've seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Wow.
But the dynamic
Because we're women.
no, just because you haven't seen the movie.
No, just fucking with you.
The dynamic between John, Kane, and Nobody is very similar to the dynamic between the Man with No Name, which is funny because Man with No Name and The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, nobody in this movie. Tuco and Angel Eyes, I feel like the dynamic was very, very similar to the one in this, and it kept popping up, like, especially the scene where they're at the poker table with the guy with the gold teeth.
Yeah.
I was like, this is such like a
Yeah.
spaghetti western-esque type scene.
I agree. I think this movie, the director does such a great job of tributing things like that, and The Warriors, a movie that I love, with that entire final act with like the
Stairs.
well, not the stairs, but the DJ coming over the radio. And,
Oh yeah.
it's so much like The Warriors, and I really loved that. And the stairs themselves, I've seen, since we've seen the movie, I've like read interviews where he was talking about like scouting the location. The stairs reminded him of The Exorcist, and you know, at the end of the movie, the priest tumbles down the stairs, and in a way, it's like The Exorcist by way of Buster Keaton, you know, the silent movie star, and it's played for such a huge laugh, and he gets all the way to the top of the stairs, and you know he's only got like a minute or two to get to the church, and he fights his way all the way to the top, and then tumbles all the way when he makes on the bottom
But
of
like
the
as
stairs.
you're watching it, you really are like, "Fuck no, get up there!" Because like you really don't. Sometimes they kill off people you don't think they're gonna kill off. Like when they killed off the concierge, I was like, "No, what? Huh?"
Yeah, Lance Reddick.
Winston
R.I.P.
literally hanging on by the thread of life in the beginning and in the end.
Who?
Winston.
Oh, what
Yeah,
about?
he thought he was going to die in the beginning.
Oh, I never thought that.
Oh. But then in the end, when John Wick falls all the way down, you're like, oh shit, Winston's going to go out.
He's getting shot.
Winston, that scene, like when he knows John is about to die and John's, pretty much saying goodbye, you like see him crying, and it's like,
When he was like, "Take me home" or whatever.
yeah. That was a very emotional moment.
Yeah.
Did you cry?
I did have a single tear, not necessarily from that, but when he, went down on the steps and he was like imagining his wife. And there was a moment in this movie where John tells Winston and the Bowery King, like, when he dies on his tombstone, he wants a loving husband. And from that moment on, I knew he was toast. But
that scene in the church
still
when he's
very
with
effective.
Kane and he lights the candle for his wife or whatever, and he asks, "Do you think she can hear you?" And he says no.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that. I up until this point kind of thought that he like believed that there was like an afterlife that she could possibly hear. I know he kept saying he knew he was damned.
Yeah.
But he said no, that he didn't think she could hear. And then he was like, "Well, why do you do this?" And he's like, "Just in case I'm wrong." And
Yeah,
I
I
loved
love that
that.
answer, yeah.
Loved that.
I agree. I loved it.
One thing that I was going to point out about the movie that I kind of had an issue with, but I think they touched on it in the post credits, which I didn't watch. I think you watched it. Sherry, did you watch it, Kurt?
Yeah. I went back and watched it after we came home. We should have
So-
stayed and watched it while we were there.
After the whole Continental in Japan, excuse me, Japan thing, where Akira's father is killed, and then they meet up on the train. Akira is talking to John, and she says, talking about Kane, "If you don't kill him, I will." And I was like, okay, cool. This is gonna be like a redemption arc for her. Towards the end of the movie, she's gonna come back, and
I thought she was going to come back
Okay.
too. I was surprised she didn't.
that was something I drew an issue with. I was like, well, why even introduce that? And then I was like, maybe they're just setting it up for like a spin-off movie or whatever. And then I guess you guys were saying that they did touch upon that in the post-credit scene, which at least they did that because that was one of the stories that they didn't really tie off, which I thought was a little bit frustrating. But
Yeah, he comes home to, see his daughter. Finally, he can, be around his daughter. And then he's approached by Akira.
I guess they got to cover their bases just in case, things don't work out.
I feel like it's a
Keanu.
satisfying enough ending if they never do another thing, but at the same time, I don't know. It's like there's always a way to be like, well, he picked a death because of X, Y, and Z.
I hope not. I love these movies. If they do more like actual John Wick movies, I know they're doing so much in the franchise, but if they do actual chapters of John Wick, I really hope it's not after this point, because this for me was such a satisfying conclusion.
Yeah.
And I really don't want that ending to be
Tainted.
tainted in any way. I've already been through that as a child with Halloween H2O being undone by Halloween Resurrection. I don't need
John Wick Resurrection.
I don't need
That's
John
gonna
Wick
be the
Resurrection.
next one.
like the end of Shazam 2, where like you think he's dead, and then they bury him, and then he pops out of the ground. It's like, "Argh."
Yeah.
There's something very cheap and like very corny about that. It's just like
They just
It
want
could've-
the emotional trigger.
yeah, but if you keep the emotional trigger and then you don't flip the script and have them
Yeah.
pop out of the ground, it's a much more impactful and long-lasting
Yeah.
feeling rather than just
Yeah.
whatever. You
If
know what I'm saying?
if you renege on it, it's manipulative.
I'm a Supernatural fan. You can't.
I didn't die
You
come
know?
back to life every an episode.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about the action in this movie already, but it really can't be stated enough how fucking fantastic some of these action sequences are.
And the fact that Keanu does so much of his own
I read he did like 90%
90%
of his own stunts in this movie.
Huh?
That's,
Just the ones
This man
he
is like
probably
60
he
years old
probably
almost.
doesn't do the ones that he like legally. They're just like
No, yeah, legally, the insurance company's like, no. But
We'll let some other schmuck do it.
Charlize Theron is another person who does 90% of her own stunts.
Wow.
Yep. She always says
Picture it.
as much
Yeah, I can
as
picture it.
the insurance company will allow for her to do, she does it. So I would,
She seems like a
yeah.
badass bitch.
Um,
With a name like that?
yeah, you gotta
be.
be. And she's in Mad Max Fury
Oh.
Road, which is
Did you say that?
I was gonna say that too.
she is also in that, but I would say that Mad Max Fury Road is probably my, before this came out, probably my like favorite recent
Action movie.
action movie. Yeah. And
don't
it's
know
like there's
mine
like
was.
relentless like action all throughout the movie, and this is sort of that also.
This is the
like,
kind of movie I
brief
wouldn't have
pauses.
I wouldn't have bothered watching. Obviously, because the first one was out for like 10 years and I didn't.
Yeah, I
so.
can't watch it until recently.
Didn't
gonna
you
say
feel
that's
the same
really
way
okay.
about the Bourne movies?
Yeah, never would have watched it.
Maybe
And
you secretly are an action movie fan and you just don't realize it.
I think my problem is sometimes action movies can turn into like certain types of like, I don't want to say gore, but I don't
Too
like
violent?
watching people. Yeah, I don't like watching people be tortured. I don't like when you are so emotionally invested in a character that like something bad happens and you're like, really heartbroken. Like
I kind of love that.
I don't.
secretly.
I don't. I like how like the villain in the first John Wick movie, Adrian Palicki's character, like I didn't care enough about her, so when she got executed, I wasn't like, fuck, no, like I don't care, it's fine.
You brought up the first movie, and I wanted to mention to Rob and Laura what you and I were talking about last night. That John Leguizamo's character, the mechanic character, is in the first two movies. It seems like he's going to be a big part of it. And he's like, he tells John, yeah, I'll fix your car. It's going to take me until 2030. But then he's never in the series
John
again
Wick.
after that.
They have a couple characters where you think they're gonna have more, staying power, like Halle Berry in the.
That's what I'm saying. Why did they could have had anybody do that role.
I like that Halle Berry was in it because she's an icon.
She is.
I get why you never see
yeah.
her character again because she didn't want to see him again.
But they could have had anybody else do it. Save $20 million.
Pay Halle Berry.
No,
Just let her do it.
listen. Yes.
The mechanic's gonna be in John Wick Resurrection.
I told Sherry, like, whatever John Wick movie they make in 2030, he's going to come back with John Wick's car and it's going to be fixed. Yeah, I really love this movie. I don't know if you guys are ready to
Final thought.
give final
If you
thoughts.
guys are, I
Four.
think I'm ready.
I'll let you go first.
5 out of
Sherry.
5.
I was gonna say she already gave.
Yeah.
Well, that's why.
No
We
secrets
let you
here.
go first
I'll
because
go first.
we already knew.
So is
You
this
already
my
know.
favorite
Special
out of all
guest.
John Wick movies?
Favorite out of all of the movies for sure. I did not expect it to be. I was like, it's not gonna beat the first one. You can't really do that. And I was absolutely wrong. It was
So you like this one better than the first one?
100%.
It kind of takes the emotional element that is, pulsing through the first movie and elevates it a little bit. I would say this whole movie, you like really feel for John and for like these other characters.
Can you give your score so I can say that I was right?
I'll let you go first.
I probably would give it. Let's preface this by saying
That you haven't watched the third
that I
one.
was gonna say I haven't watched the third one, so maybe I
Fake.
would have been a little bit more emotionally invested in this one if I had seen the last one, because I don't know what happens. I don't know what like the whole him going after.
Yeah,
the,
you're missing out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'll tell you to watch it.
Schmuck.
I give it
Okay.
a 3 out of 5.
Okay, so
Three out of
we're gonna have to have you watch John Wick 3, and then Robert's gonna have to put like a little addendum at the end.
Reevaluate.
I gotta say, I am shocked that you gave it that low a score.
Yeah. Even without watching any of the other ones, I think this was a perfect movie.
Like I said, I didn't hate it. I just felt like it was very long and it could have been condensed and still action packed and great.
No, fake.
Whatever. I'm better than fake. It could have been a lot shorter and equally as action packed.
Rob,
Kurt?
tell her what she's wrong.
No. You tell us your 4.5 and then
First of all, my opinion can't be wrong. It could be differing from yours. It doesn't mean
Well, okay. Well, I can't tell you that my score is 4.5 because my score is 5 out of 5.
What?
I fucking adore this movie. I can't wait to go watch it again next week.
Yep, can't wait.
You're so fake.
I love this movie.
You're
It's my favorite
so
John Wick
fake.
movie. It's my favorite movie of the year. It's one of my favorite action movies of all time.
Can we go back
It's
to
maybe my favorite movie of like the last several years.
I was
Actually,
gonna say, literally every movie that we watched. This
I
is
love
my
it.
new favorite movie of the
that's
year.
not true. That's not
You
true.
said that in the last movie.
No, I said
feel
that about Creed 3. That's the only movie I've said is my favorite movie of the year so far. It's Creed 3,
You're
which I gave a 4.5.
so fake.
I do feel like pretty much every movie you watch, you say at least one point in the podcast, you're like, I love this movie.
I love movies.
He does. He does.
Not saying there's anything wrong with that.
Okay,
Okay, so
so
we got
shit.
2 5s and a 3.
So you got a 4.5 out of 5. I'm guessing.
No,
4.
I'm gonna give it a 4. And I was thinking about giving it a 4.5. I
I
really
think that's why
was.
we need video also, like they need to see our
I
expressions.
know. We need to get that set up. I give it a 4.
I think I should have gone last so we could go out on a 5.
I think the action was very solid. The emotional, connection was there. The comedy was great. I do kind of agree with Laura that it was very long. Maybe that's just me. Maybe my attention span is like a squirrel. I don't know. But sitting in that movie theater seat for 4 hours, and you guys were there even longer than us because you showed up early. Pretty brutal.
Was it 4?
I didn't even note. I did not even notice that. That's interesting.
But I don't think that necessarily is a fault of the movie. That's probably more of just with me, not being very patient, wanting to sit through that much. You really have to nitpick with this movie to find things that you don't like. And I feel like 4 for me, that's like very like low. Like that's as low as I'd be willing to go. I feel like...
So what stopped you from giving it a 5 or 4.5?
Like I said,
Length?
I didn't like sitting there for that long through the movie. I do think the settings and the set pieces in this movie are probably my favorite out of the whole series so far. I think I liked the serious like tone of John Wick more, but like as far as like the comedic and like goofy tones, I feel like this movie blows all the other ones out of the water. It's like so much better. If I had to say it in terms of how much I like them, I'd probably say 4, 1, 3, 2 in that order.
Yeah, that's my order as well.
Yeah, I agree. That's my order as well. But 3 and 1 are very close for me. I really love the action in 3. Just 1 gets that edge because he care about that fucking man getting revenge. Emotional element with the dog dying and shit. But yeah, 4, 1, 3, 2 for me also. Laura?
She hasn't seen 3. She can't.
4,
Yeah.
4, 1, 2. No, yours is 1, 4, 2.
Well, we're gonna wait till she watches 3 and we'll
I'll watch them all and then rewatch them all and then
give it-
Rewatch them all this
we'll
week
put an
so you can go
update.
next week
We'll put
to
an
watch.
update. Yeah.
All right.
I guess that's that.
That's it.
While we're all here, why don't we talk about the next series, like the next show that we're going to review? Because we've been...
I thought you guys were gonna watch Yellow Jacket.
Well, we talked about it, but we have...
Okay, do you want to know what I saw today?
So Yellow Jackets, we've got to watch the entire first season. If we're gonna watch Yellow Jackets, we've got to really do it because the second season started last night or last week or
It
something.
did,
Like that.
and no spoilers, but someone eats someone's ear.
That's a spoiler.
Oh.
You don't know who it is?
Is it
You
Mike
don't know
Tyson?
who it is?
special guest appearance.
Oh fuck! I forgot to say I'm thinking 5 stars.
Oh, okay.
Brutal.
Well,
Yeah.
do we all agree that Yellow Jackets is the next show we're reviewing? Because
Yeah.
I feel like if we say it on the podcast, then we have to commit to
I
it.
think you guys will really like it.
Laura?
Sure.
I have been following along.
Oh, that's it.
All
That's
right,
settled. Yellow Jackets
Jackets.
is the next television series.
Should we do like a season review for the first one and then do an
Yes.
episode per episode? For
100%.
season
Yeah,
two?
I would definitely do.
and
full season review for this.
also coming up next, Dungeons and
Dungeons
Dragons.
and
Honor
D&D.
Among Thieves, which is getting good reviews. People are saying it's very fun.
Michelle
don't have
Rodriguez said she had to grow out her underarm hair for this movie.
Why?
She was doing that anyway. I like the directors. They made Game Night, which is one of my favorite comedies of the last several years.
It looks fun.
I hope it's fun. I like
How long is
Chris
it?
Pine. 2 hours and 14 minutes.
It's better than John Wick.
Dolby Cinema. So I don't have high expectations. I hope it surprises me. If it's even like passingly fun, it'll be my surprise of the year probably.
All right. Well, there it is. Our future plans laid out for everybody.
Catch you next time. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining us again, Sherry.
You got it.
Special guest star. Maybe we'll make you a regular.
Hey guys, be sure to follow us on social media. We are at Admit3Pod on YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram.